So, welcome to the very first podcast series for Resolute U. Know your money, lead your life. We've got myself, who is Rebecca, and we've got Dan Allman, who is what are you, like the founder and the CEO of Resolute U?
That sounds really important, Becca Jane. Let's go with that.
Let's
There's
make
other words we could use to describe, but they sound
Well,
great.
let's use those ones. Like, what are the other
Yeah.
ones then? What would be the words?
Well, I probably wouldn't want to say that on our first podcast, but we'll get to that after the next one, hey?
Okay, perfect. So, Dan, let's just go to Resolute U. What is Resolute U? What is it about? Like, who is it?
Yeah, Becca Jane, this has been a work in progress for about 4 or 5 years. And I remember speaking to you about it, how I wanted to devise a program initially to help young kids with their finances. And for a range of reasons, being busy, being the major one. It just floundered and floundered until I had to have a wee little bit of a breakdown myself to actually get my shit squared away to allow me to get the clarity and the thought process to go, right, I can now devote something that I'm really passionate to. So it's been a long time coming, and Resolute U is about educating people around their finances. It's a very unsexy topic, but unfortunately, it's one of the most important ones that we go through. It's the one that leads the greatest enjoyment and the greatest stress of our lives. So originally, it was like we got all these young kids coming out who know nothing about finance. And my anecdotal evidence on that was just discussing stuff with my boys about, well, how are your friends going with their money and what are they doing? Because I set up a program with them once they started working and they're doing quite well, which we'll go on and discuss a little bit later. And a lot of the comments were, oh, they're doing nothing. They live week to week. They've got nothing. And I want to go out and do some traveling with my friends, but they haven't got the money to go do it. And you sit back and you go, well, okay, I can actually solve that issue. So it really came about initially about how can we move our young kids, 16 to 30, give them a really good solid foundation for their finances and help them kickstart their lives.
And then it's evolved to the long game, which I'm really excited about. So, talk to me about that.
Yeah, the long game is a natural extension of our original course being the financial fix for the 16 to 30-year-olds. Is I've seen a lot in my financial planning practice. People come to me, they're in a really good situation, but they don't know quite what they're doing or what's the best way of doing it. And there's been a lot of reporting come out that's saying their financial planning cohort over the last 5 years has gone from 30,000 down to 15,000. And when you lose half your workforce, there's less people to service people that need help. And the long game came about of, okay, there's a scarcity of people to give assistance. People need the assistance. Well, how can we go about and give them the help that they need?
But I think the other thing which you and I have spoken about is the rise of these financial influencers or the flint. What is it?
Influencers.
Yeah, that's a word I can't get out. And I think that's something that you and I have talked about and where you're quite disgusted with it and that people are just giving out all this advice without having the regulation behind it. What's your thoughts so you can share that with people?
It does upset me a little bit where you have people who get on and start spruiking the next fad. And unfortunately, with what people, and it's very ironic, we're doing this for social media, so I understand the ironicacy of it. That they're giving out advice to people that they probably shouldn't be giving advice to. And unfortunately, with social media, whatever's on social media must be true. So you have people who are unqualified giving advice to people who don't know the difference. And some do good, don't get me wrong. There's some out there that do good, but there's a lot out there that do bad. and they're really in it to either flog some sort of program that they're then going to make money on, or pump up the next fad that's coming through. And I just don't think for the vast majority of people that's what they need or that's good for them.
And I think it also goes down to compliancy too, like that these people are just sort of saying all this information, but without really knowing all the
Yeah.
nuances of. But you also said a word back there, which I wanted to make a joke of, but I can't remember it now, thanks to my ADHD brain. What was it? You said something funny, but I think that's only what brothers and sisters can do. And normally a sister who could sort of hear something that her brother said and went, wait a minute, that
Yeah,
didn't
yeah, yeah,
sound
yeah,
right. So
yeah.
if there is a little bit of to and fro and me wanting to sort of go, hey, Jiggit, I think you got that word wrong. It's only because we are brother and sister.
It was the ironicy.
Yeah.
Yeah. You take what you do is you take one word and another and then you join them together
Yeah.
and you
I
create your
like
own
it.
alphabet and your own language. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
So
It's
there
one of
we
my
go.
specialities.
We'll put that into the dictionary somewhere.
Correct.
But I think it's the nuances, and I think that's the important thing of, like what you've studied and been in the business for over 30 years, and you've spent a lot of time and effort with your study and with knowing all these sort of like the differences and nuances. And if you do this, think about the next stage. So I think that's what's really important that you bring um, to Resolute U and the programs that you sell is that innate knowledge. But the one
And,
thing
and
that
and also all the compliance regulations that I need to go through. So
100%,
anything that I say, I'm legally liable for. So I'm
yeah,
not going to say stupid shit because
100%,
I'm liable for that stupid shit.
yeah. But one thing which I do want you to cover, which you haven't yet, is the community aspect of it. So, like we talked very briefly about, you talked about the financial fix, which is for 16 to 30, and you talked about the long game briefly. But you haven't mentioned about the thing which will make it different is the community. So can you talk about the importance of community to you?
Yeah, one of the big things I've found, and especially I look at my oldest boy as an example, bit of an introvert like his old man. He's built himself up a community of gamers, but hasn't built himself up a community of people in the real world. And we're seeing, and there's been so much reporting and studies done that that generation have kind of isolated themselves from real people. And they then don't tend to talk. They immerse themselves in social media because it's easier to immerse themselves in that. And for me, the community is so important. You go back to the old analogies of it. It takes a tribe to raise a child, and people have got to realize that they're not alone.
Mhm.
And having a community of people who want to better themselves, who want to move from A to B and then from B to C and from C to D, and immersing yourself with those types of people brings out the best in you. And I'm seeing a lot of disconnect in that 16 to 30-year-old groupings where they don't have a lot of close mates. Now, I'll admit I don't have a lot of close mates either, but you only need two or three. But if those close mates are just people who are in the internet, it it causes a lot of mental health grief. And when you have like-minded people going through the same things and they start sharing those things, it actually helps the community to grow and get stronger and get bigger. So for us, our community of what we want to do is get people, because if you've got this issue, I can guarantee you 90% of the people who are in the cohort with you have the exact same issue. And if you then raise the issue and we can square that away, you're taking a lot of stress and anxiety off other people who may be a little bit scared to talk about things like that. So a community focus of what we want to devise with Resolute Use is the driving force for it.
But I also think the long game, which is for the 40 to 50 5-year olds. I think that that's equally as important because it can be really lonely in these times when you're just raising kids or going to work or, like, so having the community for them is really important as well. And I think that's really what we're wanting to impart. So with your program, so we've spoken about the financial fix. Did you want to just go quickly outline what is in the programs for the financial fix and the long game?
Yeah, sure. So the financial fix is a 12-week session run for 16 to 30-year-olds to really give them the fundamentals of finance. Most of them haven't been taught it because their parents weren't taught. So there's a big dearth of knowledge about how to arrange things. I always believe that if you do things right from a very young age, it makes it so much easier as you get older because you're not undoing all the dumb shit that you did 10, 15 years ago. So the financial fix is designed to give the 16 to 30-year-olds a really good foundation for their future wealth creation. We've got what's called the trailhead forms, and that's around their budgeting, making sure they know where their money goes. We then go in and talk about superannuation, just giving a overview of what it is, because ultimately it will become the largest asset of everyone's wealth who turn 18 now. We done on the course just a quick calculation that from 18, if you earn $80,000 a year and you put 12% away to super and you get about a 7.5, 8% of return. By the time that you hit 60, that's going to be worth about $3 million. Now, when you turn 18, you may not earn $80,000, but once you go through your trade or your qualification or whatever it is, and as you get older and your pay increases, well, you start to put more money away into super because your pay increases. Now, for an 18-year-old, that's as my oldest boy Jay says, well, that's Jay's problem in 20 years' time. Well, if we can sort that problem out now and get that right, well, you don't have to worry about 95% of what you're doing.
Well, it's
Because
even
if
just
you,
having those awarenesses of knowing what to do, like, because some people just don't. So learning it now, even if they
correct,
don't do it now, they could, yeah, it's just knowing what to know.
exactly right. We had someone who did the financial fix and they were invested incorrectly in their super. I didn't give them advice to change things, but when they went through and they understood how things worked, they went and made some changes to their superannuation because they were invested incorrectly. And, if they hadn't done that, that could have cost them $1 million. So it's giving that understanding. It's the foundation of your finances is what we're doing with the financial fix. Teaching them about their super, teaching them about how shares and everything else works so they understand dividends and distributions. Talk to them about property. They may not be ready to buy a first property, but if you're moving out of home for the first time, do you got 4 weeks rent squared away? Have you allowed for internet? Have you allowed for electricity? Have you allowed for water? Have you allowed for all of these things that you don't actually pay at home? So it's given them that really strong foundation that they can, start adulting because adulting's hard, but your finances don't have to be. And if we can get them to where they need to be at a very early age, geez, life becomes easier. And
Mm,
how many times do we say it and our friends say it? If only I fucking knew that. Well,
100%.
imagine if you knew that at 18 instead of knowing it at 40. That's what the financial fix gives you.
Amazing. And then you also have a standalone program of the trailhead. So do you want to talk about that quickly?
So the trailhead's the foundation of the financial fix, and that's our budgeting module. So we've got, if people aren't ready for everything else, the other four modules that we cover off, well, if you do the trailhead and you get your budget squared away, again, that's 90% of your issues solved. And if you look after your pennies, the pounds take care of themselves. That's the whole process of what trailhead is. It's not saying that you can't go out and enjoy life. It's just saying, well, okay, if you want to enjoy life, how much money are you going to budget for it? Well, then once you've spent that, I'm not enjoying life anymore till next week. And it's
And what,
just helping them get consistency and confidence in their finances.
but what I also love about how you've set that program up is it's $149 for it. But once they get their finances sorted, if they wanted to go, hey, wait a minute, I can afford to do the financial fix, you actually are giving them $100 off to join the financial fix. Like you've made it such a no-brainer to do it. So I think that's really important for people to be aware of. The long game, so that's for the 40 to 55-ish. What's the whole, you did sort of mention it quickly before, but what's um the program about? And
So
what
this is a natural extension of the financial fix, but it's more strategic and tactical for people. So when we're hitting our mid 40s, early 50s, by and large, most of our kids have finished school. We can now, we've gotten rid of those big expenses of raising our kids. And when my kids were being shitheads, just like everyone else's are, I would quietly note to them that the $250,000 I spent raising you can be a gift or a loan. It depends upon how you're going, brother. And at the moment, it's a loan you're going to have to pay off, so stop being a shithead. We get through all of that expense. Now we're sitting down and going, I'm in my peak income earning capacity. My expenses have reduced. We've nosed to the grindstone for the last 25 years, getting our kids to where we've kept them alive into their next stage of their life. Holy shit, we've only got 10, 15 years before we retire. What do we do? And the long game goes about filling in all of that knowledge gap of what they can do so that by the time they get to retirement and they go, shit, we really need to engage a financial planner, all the hard stuff's done. So it's, again, a huge knowledge transfer of making sure we allocate our capital correctly, making sure we have a strategic direction for where we're going. And then, well, what investment levers are we going to pull? So we'll talk more in depth around superannuation and what you can do and what you can't do within superannuation. What other investments are out there that you can invest in and what are some of the pros and cons? So you're getting an understanding. We then go down and talk about in depth in tax, how things work. So if I pull this lever, how does that affect my tax position? It's not giving advice, it's just giving information so that if you decide I want to do this, you actually know the consequences and the outcomes of being able to do it. And then the last module is, well, we now got you to 60, well done. How does retirement work? And then we go through and we explain what it is. It is not giving anyone advice. If you look at the long game and you go, sweet, I'm going to get advice to sort myself out, you're going to be exceptionally disappointed because it's not that. What it is a transfer of knowledge to give you the understanding to be able to move yourself from A to B. That's what it is. It's not me moving you from A to B, it's you moving yourself with the knowledge to do so.
But also you've incorporated that into the price too, because there's a huge discrepancy of if someone wanted that advice, it would
Yeah.
be 2, 3 times that price. Like you factor that in to
And
it.
when you look at one of the big impediments, and we'll actually put the article on our website deck for people to read, is when you go from 30,000 financial advisors down to 15,000, there's a scarcity. So as soon as something's scarce, the price goes up. This is the basic supply and demand that's unfortunately not getting taught anymore. That people are going, why is things so expensive? Greater demand and less of it. Why is fuel getting expensive?
Yeah.
Taking apart from what the wanker did, right? We put that apart and we bring it back to basic economics is there's now a scarcity of fuel. So over 20% of fuel exports have been stopped to the world. So there's a scarcity and there's still the demand for it. So if you have less of something and still the demand, the price is going to rise. What are we seeing? We're seeing huge fuel bills. I had to go see a client in Mudgee last week, and I averaged about $2.70 a litre for my diesel.
Yeah.
Before this happened, I was budgeting $1.70 a litre. So that trip down to see my client cost, another $300 or $400 in fuel because the price had gone up. So that's the scarcity of demand and supply. When you look at the financial fix, an average plan fee, for example, and that's setting out the roadmap of what people are going to do, you're looking at 4,800 plus dollars
Yeah.
to do that. Then you're looking at about roughly, excuse me, the same as ongoing. So you come back and you see your financial planner the next year, you expect to pay roughly that same amount again. So I've priced the long game to be below the cost of a plan fee because I'm not giving specific advice, but what I'm doing is I'm giving you the knowledge that actually underpins
Yeah.
the advice. So it's that
Be
transfer
teaching
of
how to
knowledge.
fish. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. And again, your capital allocation is the most important aspect of that.
Amazing. So before we wrap this up, so this is our very first. It's really just getting people to know who you are, what you're about. What can they expect to find out in the next few? Like, what are we wanting to bring to the podcast
I think
moving
the,
forward?
the the next our next topic that we're going to cover off will resonate with a lot of people, and that's the 3 a.m. boardroom meetings that you have by yourself. God knows I've had a lot of them, and they're very, very lonely and they're very, very exhausting. So we're going to actually talk around what that 3 a.m. boardroom meeting is and what we can do to stop us waking up with greater regularity of having those boardroom meetings. So that affects everyone. I know it
Mm.
affects me, and it's taken a long time for me to actually sleep all the way through the night. And I know how physically and mentally exhausting that is. So we'll cover that off on our next interview, our next podcast.
Amazing. And then we can also ask people if they want anything specific, they can let us know, get back to us because we're here to serve you and whatever is of interest to you around the finances, your super, your um, budget and capital allocation. We'd love to be here to serve. So signing off. Thank you very much,
Thank
Daniel.
you, Becca Jane.
We'll come back to you next week.
Okay, look
See
forward to
you.
it.
Bye.